I'm your host, Zach, and this is the Hoop Junkie Podcast, where we talk all things hoops. If you're looking for another podcast to make that long drive a little less terrible, or even looking for an excuse to get out of speaking to your coworkers, this is the place for you. Enjoy the show.
Watching greatness on one end in LeBron. There's a dude with 35 in white getting it done defensively and then offensively, taking over the fight. Mama, there goes that man.
Practice, not a game, not the game that I go out there and die for and play every game like it's my last. Not the game. We talking about practice, man.
Pulls up, three-pointer. Bang! Bang! It's good! Wins the game at the buzzer!
Hello, welcome back to the Hoop Junkie Podcast. First things first, please hit that like and subscribe button on whichever platform you are consuming this junk coming out of my mouth. We are joined as always by my friends Chance.
What up?
And TC.
It's me.
What's happening, gentlemen?
Man, I'm feeling good. I woke up with so much energy today, ready to start this pod. This was like the first weekend that we've had since like August where we just had no plans this weekend. And so like I got so used to just doing something every single weekend, and I love that. Like we're all pretty social and all that. We like to talk, we like to mingle with people, but this was the first weekend I could just like sit back and chill and relax, binge Netflix a little bit, and I'm feeling great. I think I needed that. How's your weekend going?
Yeah, I think I laid around on the couch yesterday 8 to 10 hours. I didn't get off the couch, so that was nice. I never get to do that. The wife and kid were out of town, and then I didn't end up going to Knoxville for the football game either, so, I just laid back and hung out, played with the dogs, so it was a good weekend.
Yeah, man, same for me. Last weekend I was in Milwaukee and Chicago.
Almost got to see Giannis. That was unfortunate.
Man.
Got the tickets to the game, and then was he even hurt, or was it just like a rest day? I didn't check.
It was a rest day for him, man. He was sitting.
That's unfortunate.
He was sitting on the benches, Nike ticks.
With the popcorn?
With popcorn, man. I'm just sitting there like, Giannis, get on the court, man.
Yeah.
But I will say their arena out there, was it the Fiserv Forum or whatever? Dude, that thing is amazing.
Really?
It's probably one of the best NBA arenas I've been in, and I've been in a lot, but theirs is just it's super cool. I mean, like they use technology all the way throughout it. The cool thing is like you could order your drinks from your seat, and then you could just go to the bar, and then it's already ready for you.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
You don't have to wait in lines.
So did Giannis do that with his popcorn? Did he have like a tablet? He could just order the popcorn directly to the bench?
Well, I'm sure Giannis can get whatever the hell he wants in Milwaukee delivered to him at any time. So yeah, but that was cool, man. But I'm glad to be back. Just like you guys, I hadn't done much this weekend. If you've been listening and following us on social media, we've been up to something, right? We've been doing a cool little giveaway. So I'm going to go ahead and pass this on to Chance and let you do your thing.
Yeah, so we ran this giveaway over the weekend. First off, I just want to thank everybody for sharing the love, sharing the account. We've grown a lot over the weekend from the giveaway, and a lot of people participated. That was awesome. So basically, if you haven't been following, all you had to do was just like and retweet on Twitter, like and share on Instagram, and follow us, and you're eligible to win some tickets for next Friday's Grizzlies game. So for all the local Memphian people over here, this was your chance to win some tickets, and we did run the random drawing earlier this morning, and the winner was Nick Messina. We'll hit you up and get those tickets over to you. Thank you all for participating. We definitely have more to come. We're ramping up some other ideas for giveaways. If any of you guys have any ideas for things that you want us to do for giveaways, feel free to DM us and let us know your suggestions as well. But yeah, thanks everybody for participating. There's definitely more to come soon, and congratulations, Nick. Definitely see you at the game. Take some good picks for us.
Yeah, congrats, Nick. Look, apparently our giveaway was so successful, we ended up having an imposter account.
Yeah, we might need to address that before we get too deep. We're literally like getting ready to start recording, and I get a follow from Hoop Junkies Pod, and I'm like, what is this? And I check it out, and it's some imposter account on Instagram. And then all of a sudden, of course, everybody starts texting me that's saying, they just got a follow from this account. So if you do get a follow, It's Hoop Junkies Pod on Instagram with 2 S's on the Junkies. I don't know what their plan is, but I promise you we will burn them to the ground. We will come after them. They will not take over the brand. But if you do get a follow from them, anything looking suspicious, it's not us. You will see our official account. We'll work to see if we can get verified. We might have to pay $8 a month. Maybe Instagram will do that too. We'll figure out a way. But we'll get it taken care of. Just don't give any information. I promise we will not ask for your American Express card. We will not ask you to Cash App us. None of that. So just be on the lookout.
Once again, congrats, Nick. Hope you enjoy those tickets, buddy, and have fun next Friday. So now back to the show. So guys, the Grizzlies are second in the West at 9-4. What are your expectations for this team once Jaren returns?
The Grizzlies, once Jaren returns, I fully expect them to just keep doing what they're doing. Jaren's a big piece of that team. Defensively, especially. I think last year in their wins, Jaren had a defensive rating of around 100 in their wins last year. So he really
big difference maker on that side.
He translates to winning. If he plays well on defense, protects the rim, then the Grizzlies are more than likely going to win a game.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think it's going to make a massive difference, but the team is playing so well already. Part of that is the schedule too. But yeah, 9-4, second seed in the West so far. But it's going to make a massive difference on the defensive side. Right now, the Grizzlies are ranked, I think, 23rd in defensive rating. That got as bad as like 29 or 30, like as far as like a week ago. So defense, they definitely have some areas they can improve on. The way he protects the rim, he does give that extra third option. I think the biggest thing with the Grizzlies moving forward is Dillon Brooks actually looks okay at deferring and not trying to be the first or second option. I think he's only taking like 13 or 14 shots per game. He's shooting pretty efficiently. And as far as net rating, last I checked, he has the highest net rating on the team. He's actually, like, I know we all, give our thoughts on Dillon Brooks and, you get the good and the bad that comes with him. But I'm pretty happy with his performance so far. And I really think he's the X factor. If he gives you that mentality that I'm okay being the fourth option with Jaren back and he just gets after it on the defensive side of things, I think the sky's the limit for them.
Yeah, no doubt. Dillon, as far as shooting the ball, he hasn't been shooting great lately.
Right. He started really hot, and he's fallen off the last few games.
But he's taking wide open shots. He's not forcing these, crazy step back threes or anything like that.
Yeah, where sometimes he tries to go Kobe mode.
Yep. Exactly.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, he's on the season. He's close to 40% from three. That was a little inflated. He had a couple like really hot games at the beginning. He looked pretty good in the last game as well. We'll see. They play actually later this evening at 5. And last I checked, it looks like he might be the first option tonight. I think Ja's doubtful, Desmond Bane's doubtful, so it might be the DB show. He might put up his 40 shots tonight, and we'll see. But that's cool. Like, he's the first option tonight. But the biggest thing with them is Dillon Brooks did not get to play with the big three of Ja, Desmond, and Jaren a whole lot last year. It's like he was out the beginning, and then when he came back, Ja was out. And so I really just want to see how he is as the fourth option when Jaren gets back. We know what Jaren will give on the defensive side of things. Hopefully he shoots more like sophomore Jaren compared to the last couple of years where he struggled a little bit more from behind the arc. But I just want to see if Dillon Brooks is cool with being that fourth option and just being that 3-and-D guy, guarding the other team's best perimeter player. I think the sky's the limit for the Grizzlies team for sure. But how will he adapt to having one more person higher on the pecking order than him? That's the biggest question for me as we get to look forward to Jaren's return.
Well, yeah. And the cool thing, you're talking about Dillon Brooks and his shot selection and some of those things. On the flip side of that, man, you talk about he's not necessarily hitting his threes at a clip that you might want him to do, but Desmond Bane and Ja Morant from the 3-point line, dude, I don't know if y'all realize Desmond Bane's shooting 45% from three and taking 9 of those things a game.
Oh, yeah, he has made a huge leap. Not only just shooting, but his playmaking is such a difference. We can, when he came in as a rookie, he literally just ran back and forth and spotted up for 3, and that was it. If he put the ball on the floor, it was a turnover automatically. And seeing him just develop and get better year after year, Jaren even mentioned it. Taylor, I know you were at the game, so you didn't get to hear it. Jaren's, they interviewed him during the game, and I think the second quarter, and he mentioned how Desmond is such a more well-rounded player now, and everybody notices that. He's not afraid to attack the rim. He can make plays. His finishing around the rim is so much better. He's so much more well-rounded. I think he's an all-star this year if he keeps up at this pace. And, yeah, as long as he's continuing to play like that, Dillon Brooks accepts his role, I think the team can be really scary with Jaren coming back. Obviously, it'll take some time for Jaren to get back in the flow. And we don't really have a hard date yet. They've kind of hinted that the return could be close, but we don't really know for sure yet.
Yeah,
right?
somewhere around Thanksgiving, I would think.
That's what I'm thinking too. I think maybe another week to 2 weeks. He's back playing 5-on-5. So I'm excited to see how the team looks, man. I just feel like every year there's one guy that just misses a big chunk of time, and the Grizzlies, they've gotten by with being a really deep team and being able to overcome those. I was worried about Jaren. I think he's the hardest player on the Grizzlies to play without just because of what he does on both ends of the floor. So the fact that you're 9-4 through 14 games so far without him, 13 games, whatever. It's Sunday morning. My math isn't too great yet, but I'm excited to see how they look with him back, and I think the team can be scary for sure.
How well has Santi Aldama filled in for him?
Yeah.
He's done great. He's like a poor man's Jaren in a couple ways. The way he's spacing the floor, he has a couple of good blocks on the inside. He's very long and athletic. That alley-oop in the second half of the last game where he does the reverse, D'Angelo Russell just completely fell asleep. I think his controller died, and Santi just snuck behind him. Yeah, he's been great, and he'll look even better when he's coming off the bench, right? And he's going against the second units as opposed to going against the other team's best player on the front court.
All right. So the Grizzlies are second to only one other team in the West.
As we all expected.
And that's the Utah Jazz. 10-4 Utah Jazz. They won 4 straight until their loss last night to the Wizards, where Kyle Kuzma and Kristaps Porzingis had a couple monster games from those two. Have you guys finally changed your opinion of the Utah Jazz, or y'all still in the camp of we're non-Jazz believers?
I was a non-Jazz believer, just like I think anybody who remotely follows the NBA going into the season. And then, as this went on, I'm like, okay, yeah, they're pretty fun. This is fun to watch. Obviously, they're still going to be a tanking team. I think I'm starting to shift a little bit. I think this team, first off, they're just so much fun to me. I think watching a team that is just a bunch of leftovers that nobody wanted, that just gels together and all has a chip on their shoulder, I think that's a fun story. And they don't have a superstar. It's just a bunch of different guys. You got Laurie putting up 22 a game. He's taking a leap. Still not shooting super well yet, but I think that'll come along the way. Colin Sexton, who just brings the energy every single night. Jordan Clarkson, he's always been a bucket off the bench, but he's continuing to thrive in that role. And they do have their leader in Mike Conley, who's a floor general, been in the league for over 10 years.
In which he's playing a lot better than he played last year.
Oh, yeah. Last year it looked like the decline of Conley, and he's still, not prime Mike Conley from those Grizzlies days, but he's a good leader, a good floor general. They're so deep, and they just score 130 points every single night. It's like, it doesn't matter who they're playing. And I'm starting to come around on them. I think they're a lot of fun. They're literally second in the NBA in offensive rating at 115.6. They get up and down the court. They play fast. They're fun to watch. I think I'm getting to the point where I think they might be a play-in type of team, and maybe even a little better if they decide to go all in for it. What do you guys think?
Yeah, the Jazz, the thing that we talked about on the last podcast was on the road, they were 2-3. So I was hating them on the road. I was like, these guys, it's a bunch of role players. They play well at home, but on the road they struggle. And then this past week they went 3-1 on the road, and I bet against them.
Keep shutting the haters up.
I bet against them in all 4 games. So I know for a fact that
you were a little annoyed with the Jazz this week because of that, right?
Yeah, they were losing me some money, man. I'm done betting against them. I'm gonna tell you, they may miss the play-in as far as they're
being
just
in the
gonna
top 6.
be in the top 6. Those guys, they just keep winning. Usually with the NBA, after the All-Star break is when all these teams lock in and start playing better defense. They're more efficient. Everybody's getting ready for the playoffs,
right?
Like the deal. These guys may win so many games before then that they could lose a bunch of games after.
Yeah, they can afford a slump.
They can afford a slump after when teams really pick it up. So, I mean, they're 10-4 now. I wouldn't be surprised if they end up, somewhere around 30-15 or something around that All-Star break.
Yeah, they would only have to go 20-11, so basically win 2 out of 3, which is pretty close to what they're doing now.
They're still in the top 3 seeds at that point in time.
Oh yeah,
30-15.
If you're 30-15, definitely.
Well, I'm just glad I could finally get you guys on the Utah Jazz hype train, because the last few pods y'all have been telling me that you guys thought it was a fluke. I'm telling you,
I'm boarding the train now.
These guys are playing well. They're just playing just good basketball, man. Everybody's sharing the ball. The ball's moving. The one thing that I have been watching is this year that Kelly Olynyk's been having. Now that's the one thing that I don't know if that's real gold or if it's fool's gold right now yet. But man, he's averaging 12 points a game, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, and a steal. I don't know if it's necessarily just with the larger role for him, but man, he's having a big time impact for them.
Yeah, they're just all gelling together really well. It's just this group of guys that they all just play well together. They don't need a superstar that they have to defer to. They all know their role, and they're having fun. And I've been really impressed. I'm hopping on board. Obviously, they still have a ways to go to be contender status, but you floated this idea last week that they have all this draft capital. If you go, into the All-Star break, into the trade deadline, and they're still that top 4 or 5 team, why not just go all in? That's one thing. There's a lot of parity in the league this year. There's no, Golden State Warriors from their prime where you're like, it doesn't matter what you do, you're not going to beat them.
Right.
Like, the league is wide open this year. Why not have the Utah Jazz make a move for a superstar and go all in?
Yeah, and to be honest, like you said, Kelly Olynyk's playing well. To me, I've been watching these games. It seems like everybody in their rotation's playing well. No
They
one's
all
playing
play
bad.
well.
Yeah, no one's playing bad.
No one person stands out. It might be Laurie one night. It might be Jordan Clarkson the next. It might be Colin Sexton just pounding his chest, being a little bull, getting to the rim. It might be Malik Beasley getting hot from 3 the next night. They just score in so many different ways. They play team ball. It's been a lot of fun. I'm on board 100%.
All right, so the Celtics have won 6 straight games, gentlemen. So what has stood out to you guys over this stretch of games?
Biggest thing for me is Jason Tatum is just continuing to take
He's a
leaps and
monster.
leaps. He is unbelievable. I think when you look at him and Jaylen Brown together, there's not many duos in the NBA that you would take over these two, and they haven't missed a beat with Ime Udoka being out. The other coaches just came in right away, and they're looking a lot better on offense. They don't have great defensive numbers, but they're the best offensive rating in the league right now, and they are just getting buckets in so many different ways. That's really what stood out to me is that in the past, we've known the Celtics the past few years to be defensive focused. This year, they're all offense, and they're just scoring wherever they want to.
Yeah, and even though their defensive numbers aren't great, even when you watch Tatum on defense, just look how far he's come since he was a rookie on the defensive side. That guy, when he wants to lock somebody up, he can. With his length and athleticism, that guy is nasty defender. Especially when we go to the playoffs this year, I fully expect that guy to just be a complete lockdown. It's just really great to watch. And then as far as the role players for the Celtics, they're getting more involved now. This past week especially, I've been watching. I saw Grant Williams was having games where he wouldn't take a shot and stuff.
Right.
And then the other night he puts up 19 points efficiently, stuff like that. These guys are gaining confidence. I don't see them anywhere lower than a 2 or 3 seed.
For sure. And yeah, with the way that Tatum and Brown can just get wherever they want on the court, that opens things up so much more for your Grant Williams, for Marcus Smart spotting up. Brogdon was a huge addition. We knew he would be. The key is, can he stay healthy and play, the majority of the season?
And
if
he's
he can,
fine with the role he has too.
Yeah, he's
which
great.
Is great.
Yeah, that I was kind of wondering about that too, how he would be, because he's always been, a starter playing 35 minutes a game. And so I was curious how that would work. He's only playing 23 minutes a game so far, and that might be a good thing. That lowers his risk of injury, helps keep him healthy for the stretch run, and I'm very impressed. I think these guys in the Bucks are a clear top 2 in the East, but they put themselves up there. It looked like it was just the Bucks running away with things, and now they're right up there with them as well. So it's something to monitor for sure.
All right, moving west. Guys, what is going on with the Minnesota Timberwolves?
So we just saw them here in Memphis the other night, and I was really curious how this game would go because the Timberwolves were struggling going in. They had all this talk of chemistry issues, but as you all remember, the Grizzlies and Timberwolves had one of the most fun playoff series last year. It was a back and forth.
Yeah.
In all honesty, the Timberwolves should have won that series. They outplayed
they-
the Grizzlies the majority of the games, and they were just so young. They go in the fourth quarter and they completely melt down, and that happened multiple times. And so
They lost it.
They lost it. And so going into this, even Anthony Edwards, had a quote where he was like, I think we get things right in Memphis. Like, we're going to bring it against Memphis, and I think you'll see things turn around. To his credit, Edwards was balling that night. He looked great.
Did it at the game. I don't know if it was like this on TV, but he did it so nonchalantly to me. I did not realize the kind of game he was having during the game.
He's so smooth.
And then in the fourth quarter, I looked up at the scoreboard. I was like, good God.
Well, he had about 20 in the first half. Him and Ja both had about 20 in the first half. He was nailing his threes. But the issue with them is they just don't look like they're having fun out there. I think the Patrick Beverly loss was really underrated as far as being a locker room guy. Jared Vanderbilt, too.
They don't have that edge, man.
There's literally a play at the end of the game in the fourth quarter. I can't remember who it was that tweeted it. I think it was John Hollinger, actually, where there's a play where Santi Aldama does a back cut, and D'Angelo Russell's just standing there, and he just back cuts and gets a reverse dunk on him. And I just don't understand. Like, little mental lapses like that happen way more often for the Timberwolves than you see with the
I'm not a D'Angelo Russell hater either.
His defense is terrible.
It's so bad. I just don't think his play translates to winning. I don't.
It doesn't.
I never have thought it did, even when he was with the Nets and having good spurts. I just never thought his play translated to winning at all.
And the fit with Towns and Gobert has not been, obviously when the move happens, you have a lot of questions how Towns can play going over to the 4. You got 2 bigs. It's a pretty unorthodox style in today's NBA. And, it looks about how you would expect, in today's NBA. Towns cannot guard 4s out on the perimeter, and they still play the drop coverage with Gobert. But, yeah, it is not working well. On offense, it's not working. Towns still feels like he just lets things get under his skin way too quickly. He shows his emotion. I am not feeling good about this team at all. I think if they make the play-in at this point, they'll be happy.
Well, here's the issue, I think, guys. I think with Chris Finch, I think we've got a little bit of a coaching issue. Because just some of these mental lapses, like you see the other day, like Twitter was the Timberwolves Twitter fandom. They were all calling out Anthony Edwards from just standing there on the 3-point line,
right,
with his hands on his hips. Then you look at a couple games later, you got D'Lo not checking into the game, letting his team.
They played 4-on-5. I forgot about that. He's just sitting there and they're playing 4-on-5 for a whole possession.
And so like you got to think like a lot of that. I put a lot of that on the coach, on just your team not being prepared, and I think that is a little bit of an issue. But then also, guys, I was higher on the Timberwolves going into the season than you guys were.
I was too. I was a little too high on them.
But I sit here not because I just thought like, man, you add another big into you start thinking about for like regular season wins. I thought this team could chuck a lot of them, put a lot of them together. But dude, if you look at it, they're playing with 2 bigs, and they're only 17th in rebounding and 10th in blocks in the league. So when you
those numbers are supposed to be going up when you trade for the multiple defensive player of the year.
Yeah, you're supposed to be top 5. You know what I mean in those numbers. And then they're not getting good. They're not getting good guard play. They're having 16 turnovers a game. Opponents are shooting 51+% from the field. They're 24th in offense and 18th in defense. So this trade has not worked at all. And it's kind of to the point to where I know it's real early in the season and you hate to make overreactions like this, but if you're sitting here looking at these trends, I don't know how much of this is fixable without making a roster shakeup.
I think something that they should have looked into when they made that Gobert trade was try to get a guy like Mike Conley back. I think if they have a point guard that's a straight facilitator, floor general, I'm with you guys. I don't think D'Angelo Russell is that guy. I don't think he contributes to winning. I think if they had like a Mike Conley style of point guard, they could get in that pick and roll with Gobert, get in that pick and pop with Karl Anthony Towns. Obviously, Mike's not what he used to be on defense, but he'll at least give effort on the defensive side of things. I think that's where you make the difference. Obviously, they just unloaded their entire future for Gobert, so he's not going anywhere. So I think the move that you have to make is replacing the point guard and being somebody that doesn't need the ball in his hands as much as D'Angelo, and just let Anthony Edwards run the offense. Obviously, the guy's extremely talented, only getting better. Run the offense through him. Let your pick and roll go through Edwards and Gobert, and get a guard that can just spot up and facilitate that doesn't need a high usage rate.
Yeah. And I don't know the advanced stats on this, but their bench unit just doesn't seem to be – that seems to be where they're really getting killed, is when their bench unit comes in. They lost Malik Beasley. They lost Jared Vanderbilt. Who else went to Utah in that trade?
Beasley and Vanderbilt were the two main ones.
Beasley and Vanderbilt. There's one more. They lost Beverly.
Yeah, Beverly too.
But McLaughlin and Jordan Noel just don't seem to be cutting it off the bench.
Nope.
Nas Reed's not even getting as many minutes either, and I think he's a positive impact player on a game too.
Oh yeah, I love Nas Reed.
But it seems to me the bench unit is an issue as well as the chemistry with the starting 5 and not having a pure facilitator.
Well, and I wondered too, TC, if at this point, man, the Timberwolves they got to figure something out, right? Like, I'm curious to if the Timberwolves were to like move D'Lo to the bench as a 6-man scorer, put him in a position where all you need to do is just worry about coming in the game and getting buckets.
Kind of like the Russell Westbrook approach, just let him run the usage on the second unit.
Yeah, and I wonder if that might do wonders for their team as well, to just kind of have a balanced scoring approach from your starters and from your bench, and then also not necessarily putting that responsibility on him to get Gobert and get Towns and Edwards involved in the offense. So yeah, they've got a lot of stuff they got to work out, and I am not envious of that coaching job out there because it's a disaster. And if you look at even with the trade itself, The GM did that without asking anybody.
Yep. And look at how Utah's playing now compared to Minnesota. That's just one thing that is always going to keep in mind. Utah is just thriving over there, and then Minnesota, they just look like that none of them enjoy playing with each other.
Yeah, these Minnesota fans, man, they're torn up about this. You know, they were looking for this big season after that trade and
High
everything.
expectations.
One of my buddies that's the season ticket over there, he literally texted me the other day and said, the Wolves have been flat out embarrassing this year. Something has got to change.
Mm-hmm. Yep. All right. So after beating the Lakers to start their California road trip, the Cavs lost the next 3. Are we worried about this team when it comes to finishing games?
So I was a little worried about the fit coming in. I kind of mentioned this. They looked great in that first game with Garland and Mitchell, but you could kind of see signs of they were struggling a little bit to adapt to each other. Obviously, Mitchell was thriving with the ball in his hands. He hadn't been in that role since really like his rookie season of just having no point guard next to him. And I'm a little worried short term. I think it will take some time for them to adjust. Garland and Mitchell are both very high usage players. They need the ball in their hands, but they're both also very high IQ type of players. Mitchell has obviously shown that he's very committed, even on the defensive end, to being a team player at this point and making sure he does what it takes to win. I think they're going to be a top 3 or 4 seed in the East. I still like this team, but this is why I was a little hesitant to put them in that contender status just yet, because I do think it'll take a little more time for Mitchell and Garland to gel. And you've seen that the past couple of games where they have like a 10 to 12 point lead going into crunch time, and then all of a sudden they just fall apart. They're turning the ball over. They can't get stops. And I think all the issues are fixable over time. I think it's just a comfort thing once they get used to closing games together and knowing like, okay, now we're going to run, Mitchell Mobley pick and roll. Now we're going to give it to Garland. It's just like they don't really know like what their go-to is in crunch time yet. Once they kind of establish that balance, I think they'll be okay. But short term, I definitely think it'll take some time to figure out.
Yeah, they'll get there. I don't have much to add on that. You basically hit it on the nose. These guys, they'll figure it out. It'll take games, and they're good enough to win games without having it figured out yet. So I'm not worried about them at all. As far as the Cavs go, I'm still crazy high on them. I honestly believe the top 3 teams in the NBA right now are the top 3 teams in the East.
That's probably pretty accurate.
Yeah.
Who would have thought going in? But yeah, you look at the Bucks, Celtics, and Cavs. The one seed in the West is the Jazz right now. The Grizzlies are obviously up there. But yeah, a lot of the contenders in the West have been underperforming so far. So yeah, I think that's actually pretty accurate. It's crazy to say.
Yep. I agree with you on that, TC. All right. So moving on to the San Francisco Warriors. So, guys, they've been a little rocky to kind of start the season, right? Like, they went on that 5-game losing streak.
Yep.
And then they finally won one and then beat Sacramento, but it took Steph Curry just going in fuego.
Yeah, that was another game. They started out hot, and then it's just every single time with the Warriors, they throw that bench unit in there, and they just instantly go negative 15 every single time. And, Steph, it literally took him 47 points to beat the Kings. And so I was looking on here, and the Warriors starting lineup has a plus 26.2 net rating.
Oh, man.
Plus 26.2 net rating, and their team is 5-7. So I think you can draw your own conclusions. It's the bench, man. Like, Wiseman, I love Wiseman. He came from Memphis. He played a whole 2 or 3 games for the Memphis Tigers, so nothing but love for him. But he is just not ready to be out there yet. He's lost on defense, always a step behind on rotations. It's like unless you're just throwing him lobs in transition, he's just not a useful player yet, and he just needs some time to develop. I just don't think the Warriors have time to wait for that. And then Kuminga and Moody haven't really elevated their game yet. Their bench is just struggling every single time they're giving up runs. And so
you got Jordan Poole coming off the bench with this huge contract now, but the guy doesn't play a lick of defense.
No, he's a traffic cone.
And his turnovers, man. Like he's averaging 3 turnovers a game and only getting four assists. Like his assist to turnover ratio.
Yeah, 4.8 assists, 3.2 turnovers with a pretty high usage. Yeah, he is struggling. He's not shooting as well as he was last year as well. He's even. I got to a point where Steve Kerr even had to address it and basically say he's struggling. I think he's going to turn it around. And as long as he's not shooting well, then Klay still hasn't really elevated his game. He's been struggling, shooting the ball as well. He hasn't been that pre-injured.
It looks like
Klay
he
yet.
may be on the backside of his career now.
Yeah, I was really hoping that after being a year removed from all the injuries, this second year he would really kind of find himself again. But unfortunately, I love Klay. But yeah, it looks like the injuries just kind of caught up with him. Steph is as good as we've ever seen. He's averaging over 30 points per game, 44% from 3. He has been absolutely lights out lately, but they have to rely. I mean, you need 47 points to beat the Kings from Steph, where he's just in the crunch time, just hitting threes, last 2 minutes, and then another 40-point game against the Cavs. We talked about how they kind of blew the game at the end too, but it's like, can you really rely on Steph to just get you 40 every single night, and that's your recipe for success?
You can't, man. And then Steph is not getting any younger either, right? But when I sit here and look at this Warriors team, the big difference between this Warriors team and past Warriors teams, if you look at it, those Warriors teams that were those championship contender teams, they were elite defensively and they were elite as far as shooting the ball, right?
Right.
This team right here ranks worst amongst teams in like defensive numbers and offensive numbers.
27th on defensive rating on the season.
Yeah, and then you sit here.
And it's the bench unit that's doing it.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, they're coming just letting anybody can score on them, right? And then you look at like outside of Steph and Anthony Lamb, both of those are like 40% 3-point shooters. Everybody else is shooting 30s and 20% from the 3-point line. So like they're just not hitting those shots.
Yeah, they're not that pace and space Warriors from
They're not.
before where, it doesn't matter who you leave open, they're going to knock it down. Like you cannot leave people open. It's basically, Steph. Wiggins has been okay so far, but they don't have the shooters that they used to, and they really need Klay to, get back to. Obviously, he's probably never going to be prime Klay again, but if he can at least get back to prime shooting Klay, like close to 40%, but he's shooting 32% from three so far. He's been pretty bad, and he's not the same player on defense either. So
No, he's not the same player at all on defense. He gets blown by religiously now.
Yeah,
Right. And he used to be locked down,
Oh.
So, yeah, I mean, that's interesting. I'm going to keep my eye on that, and we'll kind of see how that goes moving forward. All right, let's move to some news around the association. The Brooklyn Nets have won 4 out of their last 5 games after hiring interim coach Jacques Vaughn into a full-time role. All this has been done while Kyrie has been away on suspension. As far as Kyrie's suspension goes, Nets owner Joe Tsai is holding firm to the 6 items Kyrie must complete before coming back.
Yeah, I think this was a good move. Obviously, it immediately came out there going to hire Ime Udoka with all the other things going on. They finally decided to step back, take some time to evaluate, and ultimately they decided, look, this guy, it's just too much PR stuff going on. And I think Jack Vaughn is actually a pretty solid coach. You remember that bubble year where they had like Karis LeVert, Jared Allen, just a bunch of role players, and they were competing in games in that bubble year. I think he's a solid coach, and it kind of shows you, like, you lose Kyrie and you drop Steve Nash, and all of a sudden they go on this huge streak. And I think that he has the personality that it takes. They clearly trust him, within the team. I think it's a good move, and I think this could turn things around. We'll have to see how it looks with Kyrie if he ends up getting back. I think might be about halfway through his quest right now, so he's still collecting some coins and still going through, and then he has to face the final boss of Joe Tsai at the end and recap what he's learned. So we'll see if he ends up going through all that. It sounds like they're making steps. They've given some positive updates. I think he'll be back soon, but we'll see how it looks when he comes back. But I mean, it's been a good success so far with Vaughn on the reins.
Well, my thing, I think the big takeaway is that they're just back to playing basketball, right? There's no drama around. Is Steve Nash a good coach? No drama around the stuff with Kyrie. But the one thing I've got to say, though, I think Joe Tsai is off of his rock.